Hi everyone, welcome to dot point P17, and today we're looking at interpreting an agricultural pesticide label and relating it to safe practice and correct usage. So normally when this is asked in the HSC, you're given a label from a chemical, and it might be a pesticide or herbicide or insecticide, and you're asked to work out how much needs to be applied in certain situations, or how to apply the safety directions. Most of the times it's asked as a multiple choice question, but occasionally it's been asked in a very short answer question. So this is a pretty easy dot point. It really doesn't require much knowledge. You just need to be able to actually interpret labels. So I've given you a bit of extra information here than what you actually probably need. But in terms of chemical safety, there's some obvious things that you should do when you're applying chemicals. You need to read the label. Never use without looking at the directions. You should wear personal protective equipment or PPE, including things like goggles and gloves. Of course, paying attention to the label, taking care not to spill the chemical anywhere, only mixing enough to use immediately, and ensuring there's no spray drift onto other properties or into waterways and that kind of thing, and cleaning clothes and equipment after use. And in terms of spillage and disposal, empty containers should be disposed of carefully after washing and puncturing them so that they can't be used again. Unused chemicals should be disposed of at a toxic waste dump, and containers can be buried or taken to a waste disposal site. This is what a chemical label typically looks like, and this is from the Dynamic Ag textbook. The key things here are the things that I've highlighted. So we have the signal heading, it's caution or warning. The word changes depending on how dangerous the chemical is. The active constituents down here are the things that actually do the work and that actually kill the pest or insect or the plant or whatever it might be. That's the active constituent. And the mode of action group is kind of the pathway. So group M, and there's various other groups, but that's the pathway that a particular chemical uses to kill something. And so if you use the same type of chemical all the time, even if it's a different chemical but in the same group, insects and pests, etc., can become resistant if you're using the same group. So it's important that you use different groups so that they can't become resistant as easily. The withholding period is another important thing. So for here it says, do not cut or graze stock food for 7 days after spraying this herbicide. The withholding period is normally, if we're talking about giving chemical to an animal, it's the time that the chemical remains in the system, in the body. And so the animal can't be slaughtered within the withholding period, because that chemical is still considered to be in the body and might impact on humans or anything that consumes the animal if it is slaughtered within that time. So you need to wait until the withholding period is finished. In this case, it's 7 days for the herbicide. Safety directions. Obviously, as we talked about before, you need to read the safety directions and the first aid instructions. So in terms of how you might get asked about questions for this, this one says, we've got a chemical label here, and it says at what rate should this chemical be applied to melons in New South Wales. This is apples, it's not that. This bit's melons here, and this clearly has New South Wales in here down to Queensland. So we're after New South Wales melons, and the rate is 60 millilitres, and the withholding period is 1 day. But it's just asking about the rate, and so the rate is 60 millilitres. This question here, if you read this safety directions, the only thing that it says in there that you have to have is PVC gloves and a face shield, and they're both in there. These other things aren't necessarily in there. So that A in that case is the most correct personal protective equipment to wear. This one here, it says a farmer wishes to treat aphids in a vegetable crop using a knapsack, which just means backpack sprayer. How much of this pesticide should be added to 5 litres of water? And that is to kill aphids. So we've got aphids, vegetable crop, and it says 10 litres a hectare in a boom spray, or 7.5 millilitres per litre in a knapsack sprayer. So the answer is 37.5, because it's 5 litres, 7.5 mils per litre, so 7.5 times 5 gives us 37.5. This one here requires a little bit of information, probably from the sustainability topic, which we'll do soon, but basically it says a farmer wants to grow a crop of chickpeas in a paddock which has a sandy soil. A sandy soil, by the way, is considered light soil down here, and a heavier soil would be clay, and then like a loamy kind of soil would kind of be medium here. And it says a problem with ryegrass, and it says ryegrass here. And then it says herbicide as a pre-emergent spray. And so pre-emergent means before the plant has germinated, and it says here apply immediately prior to planting. This one though is for applying after the crop has reached 3-leaf stage. So this one here, chickpeas is what we said, ryegrass, light soil immediately prior to planting. So the answer is 1.5 litres per hectare is what is required. This one here is fairly straightforward. It's a little bit tricky maybe. It says dose, this is a pesticide label for lice. You give 5 mils per 100 kilos. You base it on the heaviest cattle in the herd and apply to the whole herd, even if only some of them have the problem of lice. And it says a farmer has a herd of 26 bulls with weights ranging from 8 to 900 kilos. Half the herd is infected with cattle lice. How much pesticide needs to be administered to treat this herd? So we have 5 mils per 100 kilos. The heaviest, it says based on the heaviest, and the heaviest is 900. So we go 5 times 9, because it's 5 mils per 100. So 9 times 5 is 45. And then it says apply to the whole herd. And there's 26 bulls. Only half of them have lice, but we need to treat all of them, apply to the whole herd. So our 5 times 9, 45, needs to be times by 26, which gives us 1,170 millilitres that's needed to treat them. If we look here, this is fairly straightforward too. It says a chemical label for urea fertilizer is shown. How could the farmer ensure that the safety directions for this fertilizer are met? It says do not swallow and avoid contact with iron skin. An easy way of doing that is a farmer could use goggles and gloves to ensure that there was no contact with skin or eyes when applying the chemical. And then explain how incorrect usage of agricultural chemicals may affect farm production systems. So incorrect chemical usage, example, the higher amount than recommended, can cause a number of issues. If used in excess, runoff can occur into waterways, causing unintended killing of aquatic organisms. So that's explained, cause and effect. And then we have excess application can also increase selective pressure on target organisms. So that's the cause. And the effect of that, it speeds up the rate of chemical resistance for the 3 marks there.